All right. Good afternoon and welcome everybody to CRC Music in the Studio. We're really excited to bring this semester to a close, really, with a final guest artist today, a local guest artist. I was going to talk about music entrepreneurship, recording music in popular music realm, and all sorts of other topics. This is officially our last guest artist spot, and we're really enjoying doing this for everyone, kind of providing this expert insight to the general public, to our students, and those of you who are joining us on a weekly basis. And of course, next week we have our final open mic. So for those of you musically talented folks out there, make sure to get your submissions in next week. We'd love to hear your voice on that final session. And then the week after is our last student spotlight, kind of the end of the year culmination of all the work that we've done so far in our music courses, our bands, our orchestras, our jazz bands, our choirs, and so on and so forth. So let's get to it. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you a local musician who is originally from Vacaville, but now he and the band, The Color Wild, call Sacramento home. Everyone, please welcome Jesse Crosson.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Jesse. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Pretty good start to my weekend so far. It's been a good day.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Surviving. As most musicians are during this time, having to come up with creative ways to make their living
Yep.
happen. How's this been for you this past year?
It's been well, I mean, of course it's been challenging, but I really try to be an optimist with these kinds of things. And it's hard to do that when like the pandemic has been so hard to be optimistic through. It's such a hard thing to have all lived through and to be living through now. But I've been trying to keep my head up and trying to see bright sides to the situation for how it affects musicians and how we're forced to adapt and evolve and do different things that we maybe didn't plan on doing in 2020 and 2021, and forcing us to kind of think outside the box a little bit. That's certainly what has happened with my brothers and I, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that you and the band have been putting out a few releases, some new tracks and new music videos, and it seems like a lot of people are getting a chance to now finish a lot of the projects that were in the pipeline. Now, with a little bit of extra time, it seems like a lot of those projects are being able to come to fruition. But to kind of reel it back a little bit, you are formerly from Vaudeville, as I mentioned. Is that right?
Mhm.
And you stay in Sacramento now. And I suppose just to kind of give everyone a little bit of background, we know each other because we were in graduate school together.
That's
Um,
right.
I and I remember seeing you. For those of you who know Jesse from The Color Wild, you know him as a singer and a keyboardist, right? A songwriter and production artist, that kind of thing. I remember seeing you for the first time, I think, the CSUS Jazz Ensemble Festival or something like this. I had brought a school group there, and you were playing trombone in the band there. And you started out as a jazz studies major on trombone. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I had a winding path to jazz trombone. I started as a trumpet player in elementary school, and I it just my range was so capped and so limited, and I realized I think it was because my mouth just did not fit. Something about it with the mouthpiece. And so in high school, there was an opening for jazz trombone in our jazz band, and I took it home one break and fell in love with it in the way that it moves and the way you experience playing. And so I took it into college, and that's where I got my start in music education, for sure.
Yeah, so you got your undergrad degree. Did you study music education formally as well, or was performance always kind of the thing that you were focused on?
Performance has always been the thing. I am an educator, and I do really believe that it's just so valuable. Education is just one of the most valuable things on this planet. But
Hmm.
for me, I've always found passion and excitement in performance and being able to share art. So performance has always been kind of the track that I was going down.
Yeah. So that's how I knew you originally, and then, you know, you were kind of doing your thing there. I was teaching at a local high school, and then I come back to grad school, and you're now a graduate student in voice performance or vocal performance. And I
Yeah.
was like, "What is going on? This guy's like super talented. What's happening here? Like, how could you get 2 degrees in totally different, totally different fields?" How did you come to voice then?
It was right at the end of my undergrad. I had a little bit extra time. I had like kind of an extra semester that kind of got stretched out. So I had some openings, and there were auditions for the vocal jazz group at Sac State, the jazz and a cappella group there. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And that was when I was 20 when I started that. And I got to say, like before the time I was 20, I really did not enjoy singing. I didn't have a good time doing it. It was stressful to me. It was like, I don't know what it was. It never really resonated as a thing for me. And then when I started this new kind of path of trying jazz voice, kind of on a whim, I fell in love with doing it. And I realized like that there was this whole area of music performance that I hadn't really tapped into or understood. And so I graduated after a semester there, and I applied at Sac State in the graduate program and said that I wanted to do voice. And it had gone well for me that first semester, and we had success as a group, and it was really, really exciting. And I just dove into something that I found a real burning passion for. And since then, it's been about, I guess, like 7 years. I turned 27 next week. It's been 7 years that I've been voice forward. That's been my passion. And it's interesting to find that kind of late in music education, I think, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
That's
so you're saying there's hope for all of us. There's hope for all for all instrumental students out there who are studying, clarinet, trumpet, or whatever. There's a chance to change careers.
Yeah, it was really, and it also happened at the time that we started our band, The Color Wild. Our whole concept for The Color Wild, and the reason it's called The Color Wild, the idea is that if something can be like, if a fire truck can be the color red or the sky can be the color blue, you can be the color wild. And it's kind of an abstract idea of doing what you want and being what you want and being able to express how you choose to do it without any limitations. The idea of being wild creatively. And I think I realized that fall that I started it, that it was like the final step of being able to really express what I was composing and writing as a songwriter, that I could actually say it with my own voice and sing my own lyrics. Something that it gives me chills thinking about it, because it really was so life-changing, but on a whim. And I guess that's how it happens sometimes.
That's fantastic. I like your explanation of that, because I've always wondered about the name The Color Wild ever since you were in this group, and you were saying, and we were a graduate lecture or something, you were saying, the professor at that point, you're like, well, I got to go away. We're going to go on tour. I thought, how cool is this? This guy's going on tour, promoting his new record and his albums and that kind of stuff. And I just started thinking about that band name, The Color Wild, and that there's like a through line in the music of super positivity. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's something we can talk about after we hear a little bit of the group. Should we start with Somehow? This is one of the kind of like most recent music video releases that you've made. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I think we did this one late last year. I know we released the EP in August, so somewhere thereafter. But yeah,
great.
Sounds great.
Let's take a listen to Somehow, and enjoy.
All right.
I've been thinking we should take it somewhere we could talk alone. It's something different, can't explain it. I just need you to know. Well, baby, you could read my mind, you could take my heart, girl, take my eyes. Maybe you would see it too. I can feel your love like moonlight moving on the water. Take me down, I'll let you pull me under. Can we see where the moment goes? Cause every time that you pull me close, all I want is to be here now. Just get me low somehow. Push me, pull me, I'm right beside you. If you move, I'll move too. The way I want you, I can't fight it. Wherever you go, I'm with you. Well, baby, you could read my mind, you could take my heart, girl, take my eyes. Maybe you would see it too. I can feel your love like moonlight moving on the water. Take me down, I'll let you pull me under. Can we see where the moment goes, 'cause every time that you pull me close, all I want is to be here now. Just get me alone somehow. Just get me alone somehow. Just get me alone somehow. Just give me love. I can feel your love like moonlight moving on the water. Take me down, I'll let you pull me under. Can we see where the moment goes? 'Cause every time that you pull me close, all I want is to be here now. Just get me alone somehow. Like moonlight moving on the water. Take me down, I'll let can we see where the moment goes? 'Cause every time that you pull me close, all I want is to be here now. Just get me alone somehow.
Yeah.
Thanks. I don't think I've,
Awesome.
you know, it's funny. I'm not sure I've ever actually seen that last frame of that video, which is so weird.
Oh, really?
Because I've seen the video a bunch of times, but I think I always click off of it, but I haven't seen the bars across the screen. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. No, it looks great, man. I love the music video. It shows, like, again, so much positivity and like joy that you have in the band. And that I think sometimes is missing from a lot of music, you know, that there's a bit of camaraderie and spirit that is kind of missing sometimes, you know, and it's just really nice to see that in the music.
Well, yeah, there's that music shoot that video shoot rather was just like, oh my God, it was so funny because there were so many, you know, we had a plan for the music video. We went out to that park which is in Sacramento, and it just didn't work out. Something about the lighting or something that was going on. And so we just said, okay, well, let's just put this camera right in the center here and let's try to have as much fun as possible. And, you know, we were just going to do on this one shoot. And I remember my younger brother, who's the other singer in the Shades the whole time, he was just goofing around so much and being so funny. And I thought it would be a more serious video than it ended up being. And then we just kept doing things more and more, and people were trying to loosen each other up because I think we all kind of a little bit tense up on camera. And so it's funny to watch those little moments and remember my brother screwing with like a guitar cable and, you know, everybody wearing my yellow glasses, which I actually think looked better on them. So it's pretty good.
So you're in this group with two of your brothers, right?
That's right. Yeah, the drummer and the
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a bit of where that spirit. I mean, you guys must get along really well. I mean, you're in a family together, of course, but you also work together. I mean, this is a full-time job making all this music and that.
It can be challenging the way that being business partners and being family kind of like interweaves sometimes. It's interesting because we've been doing it since I think when we started a band, it wasn't this band, but we've always been in bands together. I think our drummer, which is my youngest brother, he was 5. And now he's 22. And so it kind of shows you like the span of how long we've been doing it. I mean, most of his life has been in a band with me. And so to me, he's like, it's so interesting. He's like equal parts the drummer I've always known in my life, but also this baby brother of mine who I saw as a baby. And it's just so strange. And we do, I think, get along pretty well, all things considered, because when you go on tour with people, you know, anybody, if you go on tour with anybody and you're in like vans or hotel rooms or whatever it is, hours and hours and hours, you see them 24/7, can drive you nuts. And so imagine if it's like your younger brothers, it's like, it can be insane. But I think really it's been a pretty successful venture, an adventure for us three to do that together.
Now, we were talking a little bit about your family before this, and you said that okay, the three of them are musical, and your father was musical as well. Did any of your brothers or your father study music formally? Did they go to school like you did?
No. My youngest brother, the drummer, he is at Sac State now. He's taken a couple of music classes, so he's got a pretty good knowledge of theory here and there, and he knows his way around a piano. My dad was a drummer in high school, a really good snare drummer. And then he went on to sing a little bit as he got into his 20s, kind of like the way that I did. but none of them formally studied music at any level, just kind of a passion thing for everybody.
Yeah. So, and this might be, this line of questioning or this question might kind of be full of a few pitfalls, I suppose. But, the thing I wonder about sometimes, especially someone who's gone through music school like you have, is how useful some of this information is that we study, when we go to music theory courses and we study figured bass, or, we do all this really in-depth analysis of music and we learn everything we possibly can about music. I just wonder, in your experience, like how useful that has been for you, or if there's ever been something where you were out there, making music and kind of wishing that you had had this topic addressed in your coursework as a music major, something that was just skipped over in the curriculum, or if you see any like differences or similarities, maybe even hindrances, like you see those people who are kind of natural musicians, quote, untrained, right?
Sure.
And are they at a certain advantage to trained musicians?
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this topic. Actually, I think about it almost daily. I think about this. I do think that my music education was just incredibly valuable when I was starting this band, but also like I said, on a daily basis, the way that like take for instance, jazz improvisation. It's like the leading topic of everything I was taught in school was based around improvisation and how you do it. It's fundamental to jazz being jazz. And so I think of like, okay, well, how often do I have to take chord changes and like, do licks on them? And I don't have to do that necessarily, but when I'm songwriting and I have a chord progression, whatever it is, I have to improvise a lot of different melodies all the time. And the way that you have to adopt kind of like a short memory, and you move on and you try new things, you're always experimenting. I think that's been incredibly helpful for me, because what I'll do is I'll take a chord progression, I'll record it really quickly on my voice memos, and I'll go for a drive for like a half hour, and I'll just sing different ideas over and over and over again until I find the one that sticks. And it's not unlike the way that I was taught to practice in a practice room against changes on repeat, on a loop. And so I think things like that have been super valuable, but also the language it allows you to speak. Our guitar player, Josh, he's a friend of ours from high school, and he played clarinet in high school and learned guitar back then. He also hasn't necessarily, he doesn't have a degree in music, but he has taken many classes in music, and he does have a deep understanding of theory. And so when I'm discussing chord progressions with him, the way he understands the movement of chords as they relate to scale degrees and how those different intervallic relationships weave together, I mean, being able to speak that language with him is freeing, truly freeing, instead of having to, I don't have to say a full name of an entire chord. I can say a number, because he understands that 4 to 1 feels a certain way and a minor 4 to a 1 feels a certain way. And like, it's just, I think it's liberating to have that education. There certainly have been times though that I've thought, I wish that popular music education was prioritized a little bit more than it is at the collegiate level. I think maybe to teach people an understanding and an appreciation for the art form and what it means and where the value is in it. Because I do think that sometimes it gets a little cheapened, maybe that's too harsh a word, but devalued, undervalued, when you compare it to these centuries and old and millenniums of time, these other art forms that have been around forever. It's difficult. So I do think that there's a path in there that needs to be kind of carved out, for popular music education, and it being a little bit given a little bit more love, I think.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you touched on so many topics there, but it's really interesting that you mentioned improvisation. No, I mean, you mentioned improvisation specifically, I think, because you were a jazz studies major, but I think the majority of people going into music, say our students at CRC who might be transferring, probably aren't going into jazz studies. We don't have a jazz program at the moment, but they might be interested in it or something, but they're going for music education or general music performance, and improvisation isn't necessarily a part of those degree programs. And you and I, having studied jazz in our undergrad, and currently it's what part of what we do, have been served by that. But there's a huge portion of students out there where when they study music in a formal context, improvisation isn't really part of it, And so that kind of leads me to think about those quote untrained musicians, the people who just do this for fun, the people who tend to naturally or intrinsically just move toward improvisation because that's just how music works to them. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
they're kind of intuitive, right?
sure. And I also think that there's a certain freedom to not knowing how everything works musically, because when you don't have preconceived limitations or even taught limitations to how, like, if there's so many rules to like 4-part writing, for instance, in theory there's so many rules, and so like how does it change you if you don't know that parallel fifths or like whatever are something to be avoided?
Right.
If you know to just move through it and you don't care because you don't know
Yeah.
to care, that's actually, I think, really freeing too. So it's but I mean, I don't know. It's like when you don't have the rules, sometimes I think you lose the fear of breaking them. And I think that's special too. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and again, here, just for the CRC perspective, we serve so many different students, and those out there watching might be interested in being a music major, or they might do music right now. They produce their own music at home, and just kind of be entertaining the idea of taking a music class, but they're not sure, or they've heard that once you take a music theory class, kind of music loses its magic, do you know what I mean? Like, have you heard that
Sure.
comment before? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to learn too much about a topic because it becomes less mysterious in that way, and to a degree that can be true, but there's always so much to learn about music. And I was going to comment about the bridge of that particular piece, the instrumental interlude, which is really rich harmonically and just was
Sure.
a lovely breath of fresh air. I think we should listen to another piece. How about Say It to My Face?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds excellent.
Do you want to preface this performance with anything? What's it about? Anything like that?
Sure. We recorded this a few years ago, and this was a real jumping point for us when it comes to like how we wanted to stylize our like instrumentation and how we wanted to, I guess, instrumentally convey what we were going for emotionally and how we wanted that to line up. This was all these sounds that you hear now, or I mean, in Say It to My Face, are now very common for us. Even drum ideas and drum samples that we may have used are very common for us now. But this was like right when we were discovering these different voices, down to like the toms we use on the drums and the way that we crafted the snare, and also the guitar textures, which now you'll recognize maybe from the last song somehow. Josh does that all the time, but this was the first time he did it with us. So this is a special song because it was a gateway to our current sound, done 3 years ago.
Wow, interesting. Very cool. Well, enjoy. Say It to My Face.
You're a little too close to me, and I'm just a little too close to you. Trying to find where I'm supposed to be, and everything points right back to you. Don't you wanna hold my heart? Don't you wanna be together? Don't you wanna be the one who puts me in my place? We don't have to try too hard. Maybe we could be forever. If you wanna tell me that you love me, say it to my face. Say it to my face. Tell me what you really think of me. I don't know how much longer I can wait for you. To come over here and do the things I always said I could do to you. Don't you wanna hold my heart? Don't you wanna be together? Don't you wanna be the one who puts me in my place? We don't have to try too hard. Maybe we could be forever. If you wanna tell me that you love me, say it to my face. Say it to my face. Say it to my want you to say you need me. If you want me, then I want you to say you want me. If you need me, then I want you to say you need me. Say it, say it, say it.
I fell in love with you the moment I first saw you. But I need to know if you feel the same.
I love you.
Say it to my face. Say it to my face. Say it to my face. Oh, if you wanna tell me that you love me, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I like that. I love the chorus. Oh man, really well crafted. Um, how do you write a hit song? I know everyone out there is wondering. Right?
Oh, man, well, you know what? If somebody knows the answer to that, let me know. Let me know how to do that. I don't know. Well, I think that what I always try to think about with songwriting is writing a song that I really truly feel like I'm always going to appreciate listening to, because it feels like authentically what I wanted to say or what I wanted to do or the sounds I wanted to pick. That's a song that we're all really proud of. It was actually produced by a producer and instrumentalist for another band, and he's in the band, Cemetery Sun. His name's Elliot Polikoff. He's just amazing, but they're out of Sacramento as well. But all the choices on that song, I think that I was really fascinated with the idea of say it to my face as a phrase seems so aggressive and like confrontational. But in this case, we were trying to say it like, feel free to express yourself to me, like say it to me. You don't have to like beat around the bush, so to speak. And so I think that the way that you write emotionally resonant songs is you try to dig deep into what you actually feel, and you try to find a creative way to say it. And I know that song has resonated with a lot of people, which has been really special. And, I think that that's what makes a hit song, is that a lot of people feel that it resonates with them. And so I will never, ever try to write a hit song necessarily. I'll try to write a really resonant song and like cross my fingers, twice and hope that it works out. And so far it's been pretty good. We'll always be chasing the big one, but that's kind of where our heads go for songwriting, I think, predominantly.
That's so interesting. Chasing the big one. I suppose it does make sense though. And like the concept of authenticity is something that I speak about in my classes a lot. And I know a lot of other professors do as well. It's just something that comes through the speakers. And when an artist is authentic, either in the quality of the performance and their delivery, or just how the song is written and how it connects with what you know about that artist already, and yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. So we were talking a little bit briefly, before the session about who writes the songs in the group, and you said everyone kind of contributes equally, right? Contractually in some regard,
Sure.
but you're responsible mainly for the lyrics, right?
Yeah, I like to think of my role, and I think the guys would agree with this, is kind of coming up with the skeleton for the song and the framework for it. So lyrics, and my brothers send me lyrical ideas all the time, and certainly they send me like things like, hey, this is happening in my life. I'd like to do a song about this. Here's kind of where my head's at. But I come up with a lot of lyrics and a lot of like harmonic framework for the song, chord progressions, melodies, things like that. And then they kind of get shipped off to the different departments, so to speak. I defer to my brother for every rhythmic choice on the album, and we'll fight, to the end about certain choices, and maybe we don't always like the same thing, but he has the final say on that. Our guitar player, that's not my lane to play guitar. I do play guitar and I teach it, but I'm not a guitarist in my heart, I don't think. So he'll always make those choices. Yeah. And I deeply trust my brother Kyle, who's been singing longer than I have and right next to me the whole time. I trust him deeply with his opinion on how melodies sit in the voice and what he can do. He's creative too. And so everybody has their lane, and it all gets shipped off to the right areas. And I like to just start the fire and see where it spreads, so to speak, with them creatively.
Yeah. Well, the form and the architecture of a song is really, really important. The structure of the choruses and the verses, whether there's a bridge or not, the modulations, the key changes, time signatures, all those kinds of things are really, really important decisions to make before the song is actually written in some cases. So you're recently a father of 2 years, like myself, and you've been married for about the same amount of time, or a few more years than that?
I've been married 3 years.
3 years
Past
now.
3 years. Yep.
What about anybody else in the band? Are they married and have kids?
My brother Kyle, the vocalist, he's engaged. He's getting married in October. So we're stoked for him. And then Josh and Jaden both have girlfriends right now. They're not engaged. We'll see what happens with all that. But everybody's heart is somewhere.
Good. All right. So that's great. The question I want to ask though is, has becoming a father and has gotten married changed the way any of you think about music, or have any of these life events, especially like becoming a father, I mean that's a massive change in your mentality, has that crept into your musicality in some ways?
I think that being a father has triggered a lot of really positive musical emotions for me. So like maybe sounds silly, but I don't think so. The way that I love the movie Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo is a great movie.
Yeah.
Saw when I was a kid. I love the music in it. But the chord progressions I hear in Finding Nemo now make me want to weep with love for my daughter. And so it's interesting though, because that does creep into your choices that you make when you're writing a song about anybody. But I wrote a song for this upcoming album we're working on right now that is dedicated to my daughter. It's a message to her. And so that stuff creeps into your choices when you're trying to think like, how do I feel against this? And that's another area that music education has really helped me out, is that I kind of know in advance how a certain chord, like a minor 9 chord or something, how it feels, because I've heard it so many times and I understand the theory behind it. And so that stuff can be really helpful too. It's funny though, that song that I wrote for my daughter, it's called When You Wake Up. Nobody knows this story yet, but I tell her every time I put her down for a nap, I say, I'll be there when you wake up. And the idea is like, I will be there, and it's not literally like, sometimes I'm out of town, whatever it happens, but I will be there for this kid every time she opens her eyes. That's the idea. So I wrote this song. It's really like a love song to my daughter. It's great. And I showed it to her in the car and she said, maybe another song. So she was like, she was not in that song, which I think
so
is
funny.
hilarious.
You're gonna make me cry first and foremost, so thank you for the joke. It's a break of the tears. I often have similar feelings about my own daughter, and she always returns with some smart remark.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe she likes the song, but I check mixes with that kid all the time. She's 2 years old, but she knows what she likes, and she calls them daddy songs, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
wow, how cool is that? Well, it kind of occurred to me that, in the realm of popular music, sometimes you might find yourself doing kind of the bidding of other individuals, or, the individuals in your band, like you're saying, your brothers or something might send you ideas about a song based on their life experiences, and it might not match with yours necessarily. And I was always kind of drawn to this example of like an aging punk rock band, always kind of,
yeah,
going against the man, but they have like 4 kids and they live in the suburbs.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like, come on, how can you still write these songs after all these years and all the experiences you have? So I guess I just kind of wondered if that had ever been experienced by you or any member of the band.
Oh, I don't know. I think one thing that we've been trying to do with our newer stuff that that's unreleased is we do feel optimism and positivity in our music through and through. I think that's a trait of our band that I don't think will ever change, because I think spiritually together we feel that way when we play music. We have a blast and we really feel joy. But we have tried to stretch out into some other areas of emotion, not just like love songs and like joyous and like tell me how you feel kind of things. Sometimes one of us gets their heart broken, and it's painful and it's hard to look at, because I don't think anybody's ever going to know their drummer better than I know my drummer, because I've known him since he was in the crib. And so I've seen him get his heart broken, or anybody else, not to put him on blast, but I've seen things happen to our family, and it's it might not be my experience, but it definitely was my experience to watch it happen to somebody that I care deeply about. And that goes for the joy too, the good things, my brother getting engaged, or, one of my best friends, Josh, getting ready to graduate from college after this journey I've watched since high school. It's amazing. And you feel all these things for these people. And so you can kind of step into their shoes because you were the person they were talking to the whole time about how it felt. Right. It's a special kind of experience. I don't know if we've reached the point of the punk rock guys with multiple things, because I think we're all in different places in our life too. Even though we are a family, we all are at different stages of education or work or family life. And so it'll evolve. It'll evolve in different ways, I'm sure, as we grow together.
Yeah, and it's a bit like acting, I suppose. I often tell some musicians, and you probably tell your students the same. It's like this is a character that you're playing. You might not relate to it entirely, but you can sympathize and you can play this character like an actor would play a character. Which I guess brings us to Closure, because is Closure a song about a breakup?
It's it's about a breakup, but time has passed. Significant time has passed, and you are looking for. It's kind of interesting. It's a weird song where you're looking for closure, but you also you don't need the validation really so much that it's going to bring. It's almost like you're being a little bit stubborn and wanting to kind of open that door back up because you just have some lingering questions. But really, by the end of the song, and certainly by the end of writing it and recording it, we don't really even feel like we need the closure anymore. And we always joke. Yeah. Because I'm notorious for forgetting these lyrics on stage for this song, only this song. And I don't know why. Yeah. And so I just tell them, whenever I have to explain away, I say, I guess I have the closure now. So I don't feel the need to say these things, but yeah, that's what this is about. It's finding closure and not necessarily needing it, but also really desiring to have it. It's interesting combination of feelings.
Great. All right, let's check out Closure.
I got a few questions, cause I think about us and I wanna hit send, but I just can't press it. Looking for some directions, cause I can't find mine and I don't need time, no, I just need answers. How much did you love me, babe? How much were you in my corner? How much did you trust me when you called on my friends behind my back? You know I don't want your love, I just gotta get you off my mind. I need closure for real this time. I need closure for real this time. Send me a message, cause I can't waste time in between your lines, girl, you got me guessing. Yeah. How much did you love me, babe? How much were you in my corner? How much did you trust me when you called all my friends behind my back? You know I don't want your love, I just gotta get you off my mind. I need closure for real this time. I need closure for real this time. I need closure for real this time. Your love, I just gotta get you off my mind. I need closure for real this time. I need closure for real this time. I need closure for real this time. For real this time.
Thanks. That video,
Oh man.
these videos are amazing, man, because like I forget so many things that happen there. So like you were just saying a really good point about how you're acting a little bit. You have to tell the story. That I do tell my students that, and I think it all the time. I got to really sell this story, even though I felt it so many times. Like I felt the story through. I got to try to refeel it. We tried to get really dramatic with that one. I remember that was we went super early in the morning to Pacifica. I don't know if you've ever been on the coast. Dude, there's a Taco Bell, literally like a stone's throw. What you throw a rock, you could hit it just to the side of that. And I always think that like this was drama and sadness, and this is Taco Bell, like right here.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, right.
and my brother Jaden, right before one of the takes, he was like, "Dude, pour this on my head real quick." And it was like a cup of water, and he just wanted wet hair, so it was like more like, you know, you feel all these things. Oh God, incredible, incredible feeling.
Well, it's very Harry Styles. It's very
No doubt.
the Jonas Brothers. It's, you know,
Yep.
you know, which leads me to ask a few questions. Okay, first might be kind of a softball, which are musical influences. Okay, this is a band with brothers, you know, so maybe there's some, obviously there's some parallels there, but who do you all listen to for influences? And then how do you actually put all this stuff together? Because you're releasing these really high quality music videos, you're releasing music on Spotify, all different platforms, Apple Music, you've got a website, a merchandise store. Like, how are you doing that?
Well, to address the second question first, we have an incredible team of artists and people around us that help us with all this stuff. Our manager, Andrew, has been with us since the birth of the band, a couple months after maybe, but he's been there from start now to where we are. And, you know, he is a place of guidance for us, and he's amazing and sticking through it with us. And we have, you know, like I was mentioning Elliot earlier, who had produced a lot of stuff for us on our EP. There's a photographer named Dylan Flowers. You can find him Gray Fox Live on Instagram and Twitter. He's just an incredible artist that we met doing a show at Ace of Spades downtown. And, you know, now we've done, I think, 3 or 4 music videos with him, and he shot that one as well as Somehow. You know, my wife is a photographer as well as a teacher. And so she'll take promo photos for us too. And we have all these artists and people around us that really make it possible to have all these things running, because no one of us has to think of all the elements. We have a good squad, so we owe it to them big time. And then the first question was about influences, I think.
Yeah, I was hearing a lot in those last few songs, a lot of different influences that you can kind of pinpoint. The production was fantastic on that last track. To me, especially, it stood out. So who are you drawing from? What, you know, this is a very popular question in the jazz realms. Like, who do you listen to? I listen to Miles Davis.
Sure.
I listen to Freddie Hubbard. You know, so who are you guys listening to?
Oh gosh, our guitar player is probably the furthest removed from our lane of musical influence because he grew up in a different house. He came from the metal genre. That's how he learned guitar, which is interesting because you think it's so different from like a song like Closure. But I had a conversation with him last week. I said, "Hey man, you are like the best guitar player I know that never bends his strings. You know, like like phrasing purposes or for like articulation purposes. He doesn't do it at all."
Yeah.
And I asked him why. Like, why don't you ever do that? Because I would think to do it, and he doesn't. He slides everywhere and taps things. And he said it's because I learned doing metal. And like, that's not what you do so much. It's like a different kind of voice. And I think that's interesting that it's like in all those videos, you see him sliding a lot, not a lot of scoops, slides. And that's interesting the way that that's crept into his voice, which affects our voice. I've always been a massive fan of boy bands. I used to say it was a guilty pleasure. It's not. I'm proud of it. One of my first concerts I went to was the Backstreet Boys. Saw Backstreet Boys when I was like 6. Unbelievable. We used to pretend to be the Backstreet Boys. I love like One Direction and all these new boy bands that come out because they're like, you know, you like they're singing the way that I like to sing and what they like to, you know, what I like to write. And so I have a big influence from that genre. My younger brother Kyle goes to a lot of harder rock shows and also really sometimes can vibe on some like country rock stuff if he's with the right crew. And, you know, he's like a laid back beer drinking kind of guy. And so it's like a different aesthetic everywhere. My younger brother Jaden is so current with what he listens to. He's right with the trends all the time. And so you can imagine that's an important, valuable role in the band to keep us connected to the current of like what's happening now. And so it's so widely varied, but I think everybody's voice has been changed for it. And that's contributed to kind of our sound in total.
There's so much music out there, and it's such a saturation market, I think, with with people who are self-publishing and putting all their music out, it's like really hard to follow certain artists for a long time because there's always a new release from somebody new, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it seems like you're doing a really good job of putting yourself out there for everybody participating. I'm going to put their link to their Instagrams, their individual Instagrams, their music on Spotify, everything here in the chat, their link tree. You can, of course, follow Taylor Wild where you can follow musicians, whatever platforms you like. But so beyond making music, you teach, and we've kind of been alluding to this topic all interview. And so if you run a private lesson studio with your wife, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
that's
did
right.
that start? And what was kind of like the inspiration for that? Because I know a lot of students who might be in an entrepreneurial arts certificate program or people interested in this kind of thing might be thinking, oh, it'd be great to be a private teacher, just teach guitar or bass or drums, or something like this to kids who want to play. How did you get your start in that?
My wife has been teaching a little longer than I have. And she had been doing it for a few years. When we got out of school, we met in school in the vocal jazz group. So there's another reason that semester was so life-changing for me. I met my wife. But she had been teaching for a long time. We got engaged toward the end of grad school. And, when we were about to get married, we were kind of figuring out, what do we want to do? She had a pretty good teaching gig already, privately. And I didn't yet, but we decided that I would, try my hand at doing that too, because I had done some substitute lessons here and there, and I've taken on a couple little students here and there. And so we asked, one evening, we asked one of our students' parents to, give us a referral, to tell some friends. And I think they put us on a Facebook group or something. I'm not on Facebook much now, but I think that's how it happened. And we got a big flood of calls in a very fortunate way because of the referral process, which has been how we built our studio. And then, I think what my wife and I both share in teaching and why it's been successful so far is we really, really enjoy helping kids fall in love with music and find the passion in doing it. And so that's kind of where I think that was kind of born from. I didn't necessarily want to be a teacher growing up as a kid, but as I started to fall in love with music more myself, it's a very special experience to watch that born, in other children. And it's pretty special. It's a pretty special experience.
So what kinds of instruments do you teach? Do you teach everything, or are there certain offerings that you have?
I teach guitar and piano and voice. I think piano and voice are my top two. If I took a tally that I do, I have a lot of guitar students, and I do theory lessons and sometimes production lessons, depending on the student. I've had some kids come through and take trumpet lessons from me, which was kind of short-lived, but I have not had a trombone student yet, but someday. And then, just kind of whatever people want to learn. We try to be really flexible, and I think that maybe my specialty is trying to find the way that music education links to what they already like. The way that you can find a link between, I don't know, if a kid likes Star Wars, the theme, and like different kinds of themes like that. It's leitmotif. It's like Wagner. It's stuff that's been happening forever that now has translated to what kids like to do now. And so when you kind of unveil this mystery of how music makes us feel so passionate, it's exciting. So that's what we do.
That's awesome.
Try to do.
Well, as well as anyone who's taken a music lesson or taken a music course or been part of a band or something, that really one of the best ways to improve, feel more confident, to feel good about what you do as a musician is to take lessons. And it's one of these misunderstood things about the arts, that you can take a band class and just fine, but it tends to be that this is a topic area where we need a lot of individual attention. We need a role model. We need somebody who can teach us one-on-one the secrets of being a musician, singing, playing piano, because there's so much involved. The way you hold your body, the way you breathe, the way you hold your instrument, how you sight. There's just a plethora of things to talk about. So it's really important that we have teachers like yourself or music schools that can address the needs of the students who are needing music education out there.
Well, every kid is super different in what they enjoy about music and what they like to listen to. And I think that even going back to where I think there's an area where I think pop music education needs to be advanced is there's got to be an appreciation for where it comes from, and it really does all come from similar places back at the birthing point of different areas of like music academia that we really do highly respect, across centuries. It all kind of arrives at the same place, and so if you know where to look, you can find Beethoven in Taylor Swift, and that's, I think, special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. I love thinking about it.
I love it. I love it. I've been incorporating a lot of popular music into my curriculum this semester, specifically because having become a father like you, the more I watch those Disney movies and things like this, the more I get on to popular music for some reason. There's a quality about it that connects with her that the music that I enjoy listening to doesn't, So I want to unlock that. I want to understand what is it that she enjoys about that song? Why does she like the Frozen soundtrack?
Oh my God.
And not Charles Mingus or, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have an answer, but you know, so you're working on some recent music, right? Some music coming out that hasn't been released just yet. Is there a project or a release date for this project yet?
The release date is tightly under wraps because there are a lot of
Okay.
steps to when it can come out, and some certain people that we're trying to work with that, we need to make sure we get to work with them before we can say like, oh yeah, this will be done by then and then. We are kind of late in the production stage of a full-length album. We're putting together a much longer release. I won't spoil how many tracks are on it, but a much longer release than we're used to. And this was a goal of ours that we've had for many years. But then, we had a really cool tour that was lined up last year that got wiped because of, COVID-19 pandemic. And so we kind of said, you know what, this is the time to do it. Let's really put our heads down and get this together. So we've been self-writing and producing and recording all the stuff for this new album, which has been just unbelievable to do. And we're really late in the game with that production process. So we're getting close.
That's great. So do you have any dates lined up? Do you have a rescheduled tour or rescheduled show dates that you've
It's starting to open up now. We're starting to get a little bit of inquiry to what are you guys doing in this month? What are you guys doing maybe next month? Are you guys able to do outdoor gigs? What do you we're looking around right now and starting to kind of, I think our booking agent is kind of starting to rattle some cages here and there, which has been kind of exciting because we've been wondering when, if ever, is this ever going to happen? And it's really hard to look out a year in advance and think like, oh gosh, we can't play until way then. But then when you start to get there, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like here, we've waited and we're like, it's almost time. So we're booking a lot of stuff right now. We don't have a rescheduled date for that tour yet. I really hope it happens though, because it was cool. I was going to get to go to Chicago for the first time. And so
nice, yes.
I'll never forget. I was going to be there. June 6th was the day I was going to go to Chicago for the first time. It didn't happen. So maybe next, maybe not this June, but maybe next June.
Next June.
Yeah.
Pull for you. Well, Jesse, we are really so happy to have had you on today to talk about your experiences as a musician. I really appreciate you talking about songwriting, being in a band with your family, and all the ins and outs of the music business as a young music entrepreneur. Was really doing big things and doing a lot of work. So thank you so much for being with us.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me. And if I can just say, I think that I've watched a lot of these videos, that you put up after you have these one-on-one sessions. And oh my gosh, the way that you guys are approaching artistry and musicianship across so many different genres and different regions and people, I think it's amazing. So it's been great to be a part of it. And I appreciate what you guys are doing over at CRC. Pretty great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to give our students the best experience possible and address what's going on in a relevant and timely way. So please, everybody out there, check out The Color Wild. Check out Jesse Crosson, the Crosson Music Studios in East Sacramento. Open for business. Are you guys teaching in person yet? Or are you still doing virtual lessons?
We've been doing virtual since last March. The window is starting to open a little bit. The light at the end of the tunnel is there. We kind of have a ballpark date that we're kind of looking at to go back in person. So hopefully soon. Sooner rather than later.
All right, everyone, keep your eyes out. And if it's all right, we have a little teaser from the new album. Is that right? We're going to play a few seconds of.
I think we're going to do a little teaser, the interview exclusive teaser. It'll be pretty cool.
the interview exclusive teaser, everybody. This is the unreleased track "Miss You Like Hell." Just a little taste. Go buy it if you like it when it's released. And thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week for Raise Your Voice. Take care.